my restaurant group, my business partner used to say this thing, and it stuck with me. He used to say, every year I look back on the man I was, and I think what a fool that guy was. And it's because he's learning. He's always iterating. We spoke almost 3 years ago. And I know, right?
Don't say
And
that, please.
in restaurant years, it's like 1,000 years.
It is. It's like worse than dog's years.
It is. And so, we could talk AI, we could talk all of these things, but one of the other things I would say, because I follow you, not in like a restraining order kind of way, more in a like, I follow you
I wouldn't
online.
hate you if you did, though.
It's,
cool
absolutely. Fandom.
Just
Fandom
bring
is
Maisie
what
around
it is.
and we're okay with it.
Right? I wonder, so another story I would tell you is when I listened to like the first podcast episode I ever guested on, like I cringe. And the reason that I do is because I never really thought about the things that I think about. And the more you interview, the more you get interviewed, the more times you're on stage, which you spent a lot of time on stage in the last 3 years. It kind of forces you to evaluate, like, do I believe the things I say? Are the things that I say inherently true? Because like I can remember in that first interview that I did when I was explaining my path to success, those weren't the actual drivers. Those were like lagging indicators that ultimately led to my success. Those weren't the things that actually got it done. But it took me having to be questioned and reevaluating those things. And so with 3 additional years of reflection and hundreds of conversations you've had, what's changed since 2023? What did you believe about the world that you think differently today, and about the industry?
Yes, so many things. That how much time do we have?
And it's funny, as much as you need,
because you said something that was, I think, so profound, which is our truth changes over time. And it's not because we weren't telling the truth then or now. It's because, like you said, what creates our truth is our perspective. It's like the 6 and a 9, right? We're on opposite sides. It really is both. It's what side you're on, and what created success, or you thought was the reason you were successful, doesn't necessarily, or failed, or pick your path, doesn't mean that was actually the right answer. It's just what your belief was at the time, until more data came into or life and changed it. And so it's so fascinating you said that. I've actually never thought about it like that. And wow. So what's changed in 3 years? Holy smokes. From a speaking inside, to address that part, I used to do this because I wanted to be good at it. And now I don't try to be good at it. I just try to be myself and impact one person. That's been my goal. I used to want to impress everybody. And so I would probably over-engineer answers and try to land the plane that would work for as many people as I can, instead of realizing that that's not who I am. That's not what I preach in my real world. So why was I doing that with my message or these conversations? Because these conversations are so powerful. When I listen to shows, it's not listening it for entertainment. I'm listening to it for content and mentorship and coaching, because we have the privilege today of having access to the smartest, greatest, creative individuals in whatever walk of life, from medical to business to relationships to stock market, pick it, real estate. And you used to never have access to this kind of information. So the whole thing, like, I was fortunate to have great mentors as a teenager and a kid when my peers didn't. That was a huge leg up. We all have it now. Literally.
For sure.
And so taking advantage of that is important. So I find these conversations to be so beneficial for myself. Even what you just said to open this up, like, you just gave me something to really ponder and profound thinking, as opposed to just regurgitating canned answers to canned questions that are duplicative, and everybody could go listen to 1,800 other shows and get the same responses. Like, that's what this is about, like real conversation. And the fact that guests who listen, and when I'm listening, I get to front row seat to a private conversation, and that is so cool. So on that front. But as far as business is concerned, there was a period of time that I thought the world was getting dumber. I really did, because we got to a position of such polarity and weird responses, and people have changed so dramatically since COVID that it was like COVID broke Back to the Future reference. The almanac was COVID, and we're in like an alternate world. But then I realized it's not that we're getting dumber. Actually, we're all actually getting smarter. We've just created a platform for people who aren't dumb, but maybe don't have, and I'm using that word dumb it's not in the context of dumb, but I'm saying it more in the ignorance of fact.
Sure.
We gave them a platform and a microphone, and they're just louder. It's it jaded me for a minute, and I'm back on the other side of it now, realizing that actually the world's actually doing really good. We just got to clear out that noise. That's a distraction that wasn't there pre-2023 so much, 2022. It was just coming alive, that whole influencer thing that was kind of looked at differently. And then now, our news source, our facts don't come from anything but a 10-second opinion that was based on reading one thing, and now I'm an expert. I can be an expert on anything. If you give me one sentence or one TikTok or Instagram reel, I'm now an expert. And it's scary because it used to be also like when we were young, the world was huge. My entire data source of knowledge and information was my teachers, my parents, my friends' parents, and an Encyclopedia Britannica collection that one of us had. And that was it. So if there was someone told me something that wasn't in one of those and wasn't disproven by them, I had no way to fact check it. And I could never reach somebody in New York City because I wouldn't even know they existed, or I would have to find them somehow in the yellow pages in New York and dial their 411 and try to figure that out. And it was just like, you don't even know who people are. Like, you couldn't look up who's the CEO of this company or who's the marketing person at this company. Like, you don't know. So the world was enormous. And now the world's so small that we went from having no information to having too much information and knowing what's right. And so it's just a different way to navigate the same problem. And so it took me a couple of years of perspective to kind of navigate that, to really understand the impact that was having on me and my family and my team and my companies, as well as the consumers and the people I want to cater to and the people I want to sell to or buy from, is that because perspective is very different now. There is 6 different right answers to what time is it, and it's 6 different right answers to what day it is. And you're not going to prove them right or wrong because their information is theirs, and Google has done a poor job of reading that. Because as I travel so much, if you type in California, Texas, Alabama, New York City, and all you type in is global warming is, and stop, the prepared answer to finish that sentence is different in all 4 of those states.
Wow.
And it's going to serve you what is the common theme of that area, which means they're kind of validating and verifying community perspectives, whether or not it's true or not. I'm not giving an answer because I don't know. I have an opinion, but I've never done the research myself, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a climate scientist because I'm not. But it's that kind of now curates to in business where I have stores in 32 plus states across the country, and I have to create a business that has customers and employees in all these states. How do I navigate that? And how do I do it in a way where both of them think the opposite, but I have to make them both do the same thing and cater to it because I'm a national brand? That was the challenge of the last couple of years professionally that really has been probably the most difficult outside of the macro. That is, whether it was tariffs on Brazil at the wrong time or inflation or supply chain or pick your thing. We all deal with those, but what was unique to my situation was trying to solve that. So that's been the fun big difference for me over the last 3.
I want to dig into technology because everybody wants to talk about AI. They want to talk about it, as it relates to the industry. You have a very unique perspective because I would argue that you have to look at AI from 4 angles, really. So like as a human being, right, as a business owner, but then also through the lens of you've got a 14-year-old and you've got, right, and you've got a daughter that's a singer in college. And so I find AI to be like the most amazing productivity or waste of time ever, depending on how you choose to work with it. And I would argue that a 14-year-old needs to engage with it differently than a 20-year-old, differently than a father, differently than a business owner. So what guardrails do you put in place? How are you leveraging it today? And then how do you encourage not only like your children, right, but your employees around the age of your children, right? So how are you encouraging them to engage with it as well?
So November of 24, I brought in a specialist, and on 2 back-to-back Saturdays, we had what we call voluntary lunch and learns, and I asked my entire team to show up. Not everyone did, but they were welcome to. And we did an entire AI deep dive back then because I wanted to learn. Because whether you like it or not, it's not going anywhere. It's like social media.
For sure.
You can like it or not. It's not in the internet. It's not going anywhere. So you have to learn how to use it. Or if you're not going to use it, this is where I wish everybody would do. Get educated on it and then make a educated, conscious decision not to use it. Because when I was first in business, the internet was kind of coming up and there were business owners that were like, oh, the internet's not for me. It's not for my business.
For sure.
But they never researched it. They didn't realize that Blockbuster, you better research it because it's going to put you out of business. You could have leveraged it, but we didn't know at the time how it was going to be used. So you got to stay current and be a conscientious consumer of the new technologies as they come. But AI is both the most incredible invention or innovation of our lifetime and the scariest of our lifetime, because while the internet completely changed our world, right? I mean, growing up without a cell phone and with no internet to where we are today, it's fascinating.
Same. Oh, absolutely. For sure.
I mean, slug bug. If I told my daughter she was going to play slug bug in the car and not look at her phone, she would look at me like I had 3 horns coming out of my head.
Absolutely.
Like, you're crazy, Dad. No, I'm not doing that. And like to sit on an airplane without having a screen.
How could they do it? I don't think it's possible.
But we did, right?
Right.
And now
there
they
are
don't,
internet challenges around living as we lived as children, for sure.
Yes. And that's so different. But now you have this tool like AI, which to me is the combination of all of those. It's what calculator kind of did for math. It's what the combustion engine did for movement and travel, right? It's what a car does for a 16-year-old who never had one before, and you go from a bike to a car. But it's a bike to a jet. It's just a bigger leap. And AI has enabled, unfortunately, people to think that it's to not do the research to understand what it really can and should be doing for us and how we need to use it, irrespective of what may or may not come from it. But I mean, it's going to change the healthcare system. It's going to change it's going to change everything, good and bad. It's going to wipe out industries of employment that we currently use because we don't need to anymore. A human doing the same thing over and over again will never be as good as an automated robot or machine. It's why a calculator is so valuable in math. But it doesn't mean that you don't need to know math. It just means you don't need to know complex math. And how we use it in school, to me, is the most important shift that has to occur yesterday. I don't need my kid learning a bunch of geography and art history in 7th and 8th grade. What I need them to learn is how to access that information using the technology and then quiz them on on those answers. So I still want them to learn the material, but I don't need them to memorize the material in 7th grade that they will not remember at 20. I want them to learn how to access the information, because that's really what it's about, right? We memorized it for access because we didn't have any other way to have it, but now it's in my pocket. So wasting hours and hours trying to fill our heads with facts that don't have immediate relevancy, that is going to be called upon at some future date, possibly. I'd rather them learn how to navigate the world using these tools and be creative and understand that right now in a classroom in any city in the world, 10 kids with AI or one of the LMS platforms that is decently relevant to modern the options, not the first version but today's, they could create a music video, they could create an app, they could build a website, they could recreate how you learn art history, they could go experience art history around the world right now in that classroom using these tools. So I'm not suggesting we don't learn it. I'm suggesting we actually learn it, not just focus on memorization and recall, and pivot away from the way we used to teach, which is you learn the lesson, then you take a test. And then when you become an adult, you take the test and then you learn the lesson. And there's no in between for adulting. So they become very inadequate adults until they learn that skill in that early adulting years. And working with a lot of young adults, now I understand why I thought I knew everything and I knew nothing when I was 18. Or last year or last week.
Sure.
Right? We're all limited to what we know. And so in that vein, it's like, imagine if you use these tools to let them take the test and then let them learn like we do as adults. And that skill of understanding how you take a test with limited information. So I recently got my pilot license, and in the test is a 4-hour oral conversation. And Cliff, my instructor who was giving me the 4-hour oral, he flew in the military. He was part of Black Hawk Down recovery missions. Like, this man has forgotten more about aviation than I ever want to know, let alone will know. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not a professional pilot. I'm doing this recreationally. So I'm like the worst box because I'm not a professional. I didn't study like it's my job, because it's not. And I said, I brought books. I don't know the answer. Can I? And he goes, Jeff, a good pilot knows where to get the information. I don't need you to know it. I need you to know where to get it right now. So if you know the structure of the books, the structure of the information, just go tell me what it is and give me the right answer, not your best guess and give me a half-baked answer. And that is so valuable in life. AI gives that to me. Right now, sitting with you, I could AI, and I could go back to the show we did 3 years ago, and I could literally just ask one of these LMSs, what were the 10 best takeaways from that episode, and what
That's
could
what
Jeff
I did
have
for
done
this
better?
episode.
Well, thanks, Josh. Could have sent it to me too. No,
I didn't ask what could Jeff do better, but like it was, what I wanted the context around the conversation.
That's right, and the efficiencies that come from it, right? Because the busy work goes away. Think about how productive we get to be when all of the arduous time parts are gone. It's straight productivity, instant. Think about what we can do as humans, as mankind, as countries, as communities, as civilizations, and all the problems we're dealing with, whether it's a fire that wipes out the community, or it's famine, or pick a plague, or whatever, cancer. If doctors don't have to worry about setting up the stuff and finding ways to run the same hypothesis 57 times equally, but they can plug it into a machine that has machine learning capabilities and give it all the variables and all the lessons that we've already got. I mean, it's astronomically exciting, and it's scary for the people who aren't part of it because they're going to become extinct, unfortunately, with it, because the haves and have-nots in the knowledge and utility is going to be enormous. And
but especially in the industry, right? I mean, in all industries, but especially in the restaurant industry, what you're saying is the people that are using it now are just going to end up so much further ahead that like 12, 18 months from now, there's no catching up, right? Because
at all
of the LLMs ever, because they're all going to direct to the same spot because they've been conditioned to do so for the last 12 months. It's bananas where we are.
And how you prompt it. Like speaking specifically in the restaurant world, it's like, I get to run queries now for my restaurants and my franchisees' restaurants that says, what employee is working when we do the most revenue in upsells?
Absolutely.
And is that employee working in my busiest hours or not? Well, why don't we pivot that? And which employee do I have the most amount of bad reviews? Well, let's not put them during our busiest peak and training. And then which product sells best in which month? And then correlate that to pricing for those items and ingredients. And then define, why am I selling expensive items that don't sell as much in the wrong area? Now let's have seasonal menus and crafting the right offers and doing agentic style research on my competitors and why are they winning in certain categories and why are consumers liking it? What is the behavior of those consumers? And content creation around that and a menu around that and a design and a marketing initiative that I can try 55 times without having to hire a marketing agency and take all of that spend I would have spent giving it to someone else to do it for me and actually put it into the ads or give it away for free to the customer to come try it. It's just, it's so dynamically different of a business that if you're not touching this because you think of yourself as a chef, I'm scared for you. Like, I want you to wake up, and otherwise you're going to be working for someone who was until you're not.
I was sitting in this marketing mastermind, like 2023. Sitting next to Dan Martell, and it's like Perry Belcher. Amazing, right? Yeah. Dan's there, Perry Belcher's there, like all of these marketing gurus are sitting in this thing. It was actually in Carlsbad. Dan goes, it's, I'm sure Speakeasy is the mastermind. And so Dan's sitting in there, he's visiting from Kelowna. They asked, hey, Dan, what do you think is going to go on? Because it's still early days, 3 years ago. And he goes, marketers aren't going anywhere. But I'll tell you this, marketers using AI are going to replace marketers that aren't using AI. And the 100%. Days of the 100-person agency are done. You could have a $10 million 2-person agency because you have that ability to scale. And I think the same thing's true in the restaurant industry. I think that what you're going to see is that those that do are going to cannibalize those that don't. You're already kind of seeing it, right?
Yeah. And then using them as your employees. I use Claude and I use Chat and I use Grok as my employees. So I'm building some apps in Replit, and because I'm not a coder, but I'm definitely going to vibe code some things because I need it. And so I have these tools, but I don't write the prompt. I have Chat write the first prompt for Replit, telling it what I want.
Absolutely.
But I don't send it to Replit yet. I now give it to Claude and I say, here's the thing I wrote. Criticize the hell out of this. Then I give it back to Chat, where it was the initial creator, and I ask it to do it. Then I give it to Replit, who then does phase 1, and then I take the code and I give it to both of them to critique the code and then tell me why it's not done correctly. And I did this in an evening, and I have the best employees I could ever hire. They still make mistakes. But guess what?
For sure.
I love when people say, well, yeah, but AI makes a lot of mistakes. Show me a human that doesn't.
Absolutely.
Let me do something for you, and you're going to point out a lot of my mistakes. So
let's go.
No change, right? That power is it's just unbelievable.
Oh, it is. And it's $20 a month, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, I recommend.
Like,
I do the more expensive one. Maybe I'm a sucker.
yeah,
But yes.
same. But
Yeah,
I mean,
200 a month. But
just to get started, it's not a bad place to be.
If you're not doing it, and here's for those listening that are like, yeah, but I don't understand. I didn't understand it either. Not even a little bit. Not even 1%. So what did I do when the first day I ever got it is I went into it and I said, can you please teach me what and how I could use you, ChatGPT, like I'm a 5-year-old? And it taught me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like I used to have a whole series of talk to me like I'm 5. If you don't understand it, teach me. It will teach you how to use it by you just asking it. And what could I have done better to ask you this better? And when I'm done with my projects with it, I then say, what should I or could I have asked you that I didn't, and why? And now I put that as part of my prompt. I even say, when you're done, go back through it and play devil's advocate and tell me why you made the decisions you made where you could have gone either way. And if you give someone 5 hours to cut down a tree, you should spend the first 2 or 3 sharpening your axe.
For sure.
It's sharpening your axe. Work on that prompt. Work on how you engage with them, because just asking it to do, and this is what I see employees doing even in my organizations, it frustrates me, is they're asking it to think for you. It shouldn't think for you. That's the difference. It could strategize with you and analyze and improve like your formula strategy. But if you're a marketer and you worked for me and I said, hey, let's do a marketing campaign, and you went to Claude and you said, draft me a marketing campaign for this location for Everbowl, blah, 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 and hand it to me. Well, so is every one of my competitors giving that same thing to me. So you just made us average. Instead, what you should say is, what are my competitors doing in these areas and how can Everbowl be different, and get thought, then think about it, then say, knowing that, and now you're working with it to create a strategy, not letting it just quickly give you a strategy. So when you get the answer from somebody in 5 minutes, you didn't get real depth. It's about depth. It's about really digging into this stuff and understanding what separates the 1%, right, that are going to be the top performers. And I always like to use this analogy, but would you jump out of an airplane with a 99% complete parachute?
Right.
No, you wouldn't. So why are you not doing the same for yourself? Because this is your business. This is your parachute. Your money being spent, your investments being done, your business elevating or growing. Like your show, like you said, you use it in your show. If you don't use it every single day in your professional, if you're a teacher, you should be using it. If you're a car salesman, you should be using it. If you're a mechanic, you should be using it. You should be constantly challenging every single thing you do. Hey, we sell these kinds of oils. Are they still the best for these kinds of cars? What else is out there? Is there a better value for my customer? Is the value proposition right? Here are my ads. What and how could I be doing these different to stand out in the oil change industry? It doesn't matter what career you do. You should be touching these things every single day, at least 10 minutes.
Oh, at least. Oh my God. I mean, I spend half my day. I spend half my day on it. At least. And only because the other half is spent talking to humans about the things that I just did using the robot. Let's go back to Dan for a minute. I want to talk about brand. In a subsequent conversation after spending time with him in that mastermind, he talked to me about this idea of going pro, right? What he was going to do was he was going to go all in on media. I mean, this is a guy who had spent 10 years at least on YouTube. And had, thousands, but not like tens of thousands, not like hundreds of thousands followers. He had a social media presence, but it was thousands. It wasn't millions like it is today. He doubled down on brand. And in our last conversation 3 years ago, you were reluctantly building a personal brand. Mm-hmm. The conversation started with, so because of the franchising, they want me to start building a personal brand. And that's a journey in and of itself. And I think a lot of the people listening are reluctant to do so. I think it's one of those things that even when you picture the outcome, it feels like work. Especially in your 40s, right? Like in your 20s, you're like, I want to be famous, right? And in your 40s, you're like, I want to be left alone.
Yes. Yes.
But you've done a beautiful job over the last 3 years of getting out there and building brand and becoming a household name through your own show, through live speaking engagements, and through all of the media that you're creating, written, video, the whole 9 yards. What have you learned about building a brand through the process?
Authenticity. If your tribe, whatever size it may or may not be, is going to be all predicated on who you are, because we all feel when someone is disingenuous and not being themselves. You just feel it. You know it. Like, are you really like, do you light up about whatever it is that you're saying? If I'm like, I love cow milk. It is so good. Yum, yum, yum. But I really don't, because I don't really like cow milk. Not because I eat meat, but I personally don't like cow milk. I never did. You're going to feel it. So why would I want to try to fake my way to be influential in an area that I don't care about? And not knowing how to do a personal brand, being very reluctant, and I still am. Like, I don't want anyone to know who I am. I had an incident that scared the hell out of me. We were out to dinner, not in a scared, like, violent way, but we were out to dinner with my family, and I go into the restroom, and I'm in the urinal, using a urinal, and a man next to me says, "Hey, you're Jeff," and he sticks his hand out to shake my hand.
My God.
I'm trying to use the restroom. I don't want that experience. Please don't do that. Leave me alone. I'll talk to you when I get out, but come on, let's have boundaries. And in today's world, it's scary to try to establish yourself at this idea that the version you see of me or you or Dan or real, like, much more famous individuals, you don't really know who they are or what they deal with. And it doesn't mean that they're not better than you either. Like, you're just as qualified and good of a human and deserve the same love and respect. And the fakeness of it, I don't like. And it happens a lot. Like, we'll go socially, and I'm actually more introverted. Like, I'm not the life of a party. I try to be quiet. Like, I'm just not that guy. And no one and I dress like I'm still 25. And so I kind of get overlooked as conversation with grownups in these settings until somebody says, "Oh, that's Jeff from either Everbowl or whatever." And then they may have known me, and then their whole persona changed. It's so fake. It grosses me out. I don't want to have that. I want real conversation with real humans. And I want you to like me for me, not for some facade. And I'm going to help you whether you're the mailman, the waiter, or the president of a company. I don't care. If you're a good human, I want to do life with you. If you're not, I don't. And so in the brand of building your personal brand, I've now want to attract the right people around me. I don't want to impress. I have nothing to sell also. So a lot of people do it for the sake of selling. All I can do is get you to possibly go buy a $13 or $12 or $10 smoothie or bowl. Please do. I'm not investing that much time to get you to buy a bowl. If you don't want to, you won't. But I don't have, like, products that I pitch from a stage or back end sell or opportunities that I'm trying to feed you into a funnel that I have. So I'm not here to do that. So I'm going to say what I believe because it works for me. And I do believe that more people should be successful. And personal brand, if you are the leader of a business, it's like AI. It's another multiplier and amplifier for your business. Like you mentioned, like Perry Rogers and Dan. Well, Perry and me, I used to have a digital marketing agency with Neil Patel. And back then, Traffic and Conversion Summit with Roland Frazier, and Dice, I spoke at those early on, and we were all kind of doing business together. They're all successful, and I was able to because of the notoriety that comes with a personal brand, because sales and awareness, which is why you do ads on social media, is for professional brand. So in today's change with Instagram and social media, we went from falling in love with brands to now falling in love with authentic stories.
For sure.
And when you follow the story, you now will buy the product. And that's why Elon Musk, it was amazing to watch how, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, whoever he pissed off, the other side was buying Teslas. And Absolutely. It wasn't Tesla ads, it was the individual. And so when you think about that from that side, it's like, well, personal brand doesn't mean you have to be famous, though. And that's the other thing I learned. Fame, I don't want. I want to be known in my industry because I want my industry employees and people I want to attract to come to my companies because they know about it. And the only way to know about it is by being known. And I want to sell franchises. I don't advertise franchise sales. I never have. But when I'm speaking on stage and I'm teaching, I'm sharing or I'm exposing, exposure leads to expansion of the mind and what's capable. When you see that an average guy like me was able to open 28 of these and we're integrated in a way that does it, me sharing this, me teaching you why we're successful is a way I'm selling. I'm seeding it to you, right? So if you're listening and you're like interested in franchising and you had never thought about Everbowl, but you were like, oh, you know what? That's really smart. And oh, who's involved? And I name drop all the cool people that are there and where we are and how fast we're growing. And I make it sound like I'm, kind of bragging a little bit, but you're listening to me on this conversation because you're a big fan of Josh's and the show. Well, all of a sudden, I get free advertising. I get to put the brand out there. I get to advertise to you however I want and not just have to fit it on a 3x5 piece of mail in the mail or on your phone that's going to show up for 8 seconds, and I hope you click. I actually get to tell you whatever I want to tell you. I've got complete captivation of the potential consumers if I am strategically putting myself on the platforms in front of the right audience. I want to be in front of everybody. I don't care if you buy a franchise or not. I don't need you to. I want the right people to come there too. But I want to build my brand. I want to expose all my companies and we build and unevolve. And I want to have these conversations because I needed this to be successful because I didn't have any special skills. I'm not Mensa brilliant. I'm 5'9" average. I went to University of Arizona, Harvard of the West. And I'm like the definition of ordinary guy in America. But I was taught and exposed to what extra things a guy like me can do to get extraordinary results. And that is repeatable. That is doable by everybody. And I want to live in a world, selfishly, where everybody is successful because the whole thing's different. It's not going to be a utopian society, but imagine how many amazing ideas are in the heads and hearts that will never see the light of day because they either don't have the confidence, the know-how, or the formula to make it happen. And how my life could be so much better if everybody was happier, and my experiences with less road rage and less violence and less distrust and distaste, it would just be a better world. And why don't I want to do that when your success doesn't limit mine? I mean, if you can captivate enough of the audience from my companies that I get 0 sales, I'll come work for you. But Coke and Pepsi are there, McDonald's and Burger King made it. So at the end of the day, there's plenty out there for us all. I mean, think about how many burger joints there are, how many chicken joints there are.
Oh my goodness,
holy
for
smokes,
sure.
Everybody's a damn chicken joint. We all eat. So the point is, like, we're a fraternity of men and women who are trying to make success and take control of it. And I want to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me, as much as we're going to learn from them, etc. If I help you like others helped me, then I'm going to watch you be successful. I'm going to steal ideas right back from you. Most people don't know this, but Microsoft, Bill Gates saved Apple.
Yeah, he invested. He put money
when they were about to go out of
company.
business. When they were about to go out of business. And they were competitors before. But what Steve knew was you always want to have a competitor. They build the environment because if no one likes Microsoft, where are they going to go? To a different industry. But if they go to Apple, he has a chance to get them back tomorrow. He has a chance to pivot off of Apple, and they're going to grow each other because every piece of new brain that Apple educates, they now are also going to possibly learn about Microsoft. And so when you're building in an environment, you want to have competition and rivals. So it's just been one of those whole ideas where it all comes from something you can control right now without the money, without the access, without the resources. You have a phone in your pocket. And my youngest daughter, she's got so much anxiety about everything. Like, she will never get in front of the classroom. She's so scared. Well, I was the same way. And I said to her, honey, here's the beauty of it. If no one watches your beginning content, guess what? No one watched it. So who cares how bad you were? No one watched it. The worst part is when you have to start in front of a big crowd, which is a different environment. But most people don't have that problem. So why don't you just go out there and film something and just post it on YouTube private for yourself? Don't even let anyone see it, but just get in the behavior, because habits dictate results, not how you do the thing. And so if you get in the habit of creating content and articulating whatever it is your industry is or whatever it is your brand's about in a way that becomes authentic for you and you're comfortable enough, well, then you start a show. I mean, I think every teenager, I told my daughter this, my older daughter, I think everybody who's 15 to 25 should create some version of a podcast. And they should do it because it gives you the right to call someone like you, Josh, or me, and say, I have a show. Can I interview you?
Absolutely.
I'm going to say
100, 1000%. It's context. You
yes.
know, 3 years ago, had I called you on the phone and said, can you tell me all the secrets to your business? I wouldn't have gotten answers. I would have gotten a restraining order. You need context to have these conversations. And so with media being the way it is, it creates platform where people are willing to open up, where it makes sense to have the conversation. And again, like I think that when someone, and you're a great example of this, and you do it on your own show. When somebody gives you the privilege of sitting across from them for an hour, right, being well-researched enough that you don't ask the same questions that everyone else asks. That way it's as interesting for them as, God willing, it is for the audience, but you learn. It's the best skill that I've gotten out of 600 plus episodes.
And you're great at it, and it's clear. Like, it's not forced by you. You're not doing it based on trying to answer that question. it became you as the podcast host.
I'm curious.
It's just natural. That's right.
I'm curious.
That's right.
And it's made me more curious. And then you learn how to ask better questions. You know, I spent the first couple of years asking questions and not getting the answer I want and not really knowing how to navigate to the thing that I wanted. You know, and so it's an art, but like once you do it, you're able to sit at a boardroom table or at a dinner room or a dining room table.
And you're basically a customer of your own show, right, Josh? Because we've all listened to a show and we want the next question to be asked that they don't ask. And you're like, wait, I want to know. And what? And it lets you off the hook. And by being curious, by doing that, your audience is now feeling exactly what, you know, depending on the guest, that you're feeling. And so you're making the show better for them, which makes it authentic. Like Joe Rogan, that's why his show is successful.
For sure.
It's because he goes so deep with these questions. He leaves none of the thoughts in your head unasked, even if it's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And that is an awesome way to do a show because, to your point, it's like, I've done enough of these. You know, I've done 500, 600 as a guest. If I'm on with a very inexperienced host and they're asking me the same generic questions about, tell me your story and, you know, start from the beginning. And it's like, I've done this 400 times. I'm going to try to end this stuff and get to something I want to talk about. So I'm not going to answer the way they want me to. And if they don't push it, I'm not going to do it. But a pro like you wouldn't let me do that. Not that I would because you're a pro, but I'm saying if I was, you wouldn't let me. And that makes it good too, because this is supposed to be enriching for your audience, not for my personal goals of the show. It's your platform. It's your audience.
So you start with brand and it's the same for everybody, right? It's slowly and then suddenly. And it's the same. It was the same for Everbowl, right? It was the same for my restaurant brands that I spent years and people would say, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I own this thing. And they're like, what is it? And then like one day out of the blue, I told somebody what it was. And they're like, oh, I know that. Or, hey, my friend just went there. Oh, it's on my list. Or I read an article on it. It's all slowly and then suddenly. Talk to me about how you maintained enthusiasm, you know, when posting on social media endlessly and getting like 7 likes and you're blood related to half of those for months, right? For years. It doesn't always hit. And then, you know, in that process, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but like you do begin to think to yourself, like, this is 6 months. Like, this is a year of doing this. Like, where's the ROI? And then, you know, how do you thread the needle? How did you stick with it?
So here's where I'm going to be honest and authentic, which 3 years ago I would not have answered this the same way to the beginning of this conversation. Very early on, I hired someone to do it all, and I never looked at it.
Wow.
Because I was not really on social media myself. I don't really use social media as a consumer of it. I use it as a tool. And so for me, it's a utility, not an entertainment platform. I would never have been able to stick with it. So changing behavior is very hard. And one of the reasons I've been able to find success for myself is I remove the things that limit my ability to win, not try to create the person all the time that has to do the things that are uncomfortable. I want to do those things. I'm ambitious to do those things. I aspire to do those things. Those are very noble ideas. The gym is the most busiest place in the world the first 2 weeks of January and the deadest place the first 2 weeks of February. So Wayne Gretzky said, you don't have to be fast. You just have to skate to where the puck's going to be. So self-analyze, analyze yourself and say, okay, what stops me from doing these things that I know I want to or should do, but I'm not going to? What's going to derail me? Well, I'm not a user of social media, so therefore I don't really understand how people use it. I don't like to use it as that way because I don't know how to do it. And I try to maintain real conversational relationships. Again, this was years ago. It's different today, going back. At the time my brain was at, I have real relationships with my friends. So why do I need to go look at my best friend's Instagram? I was there. Right. I was at that party with him, right? And I didn't understand it. And so when I was begrudgingly getting into it and knowing I had to do it, I tried. And I did it for about a month and a half. And I was inconsistent. I didn't like it. You're right. I posted something and there was like 9 likes and 7 of them were my family because I said, did you see it? Right? Right. Go, yeah, it was great.
Can you go online and like this? Yes.
Yeah. My dog had an account that liked it.
Sure.
You know, all those things. And I was like, this is not what I'm going to be great at. I want to operate in my brilliance. My brilliance is not learning how to do this, but I do have companies. I do have resources. Why don't I use some of my resources, which for others might be to use the social media platform themselves, and hire someone. So I hired a full-time videographer, Andrew, who came in, and I interviewed a bunch of people, and he came in with this cool plan. And he's like, look, man, I built a studio here, so I didn't have to leave my office because I knew that I wasn't going to. I knew that I was going to justify every time I had a good excuse, I was going to use it. Not because I today sitting here, I don't want to, but I know myself. And you should take a look at yourself and take away the things that are going to get in the way. So I did that. And I didn't look at it every day. I didn't even know. Like someone's like, oh, that was really cool. That thing you posted. I'm like, uh-oh. Oh, yeah, that was cool. I did the content. I was there. So why do I need to see what we posted? I'm the one who was spoken. So clearly I was physically there. But I always would answer my own responses. And that's where I told Andrew, you never get to respond to people, personal DMs. On the feed, sure. But if anyone DMs personal, I want to do it. So once a week I would go on and do it. And then it became twice a week. And then it became every day because I got to understand the tool. I got to use it more. Andrew's been gone now for over a year. So it's different now. I understand it. It doesn't bother me the same. But to answer your question, how I started, I got out of my own way because I was not going to do it. And so you've got to self-analyze and say, I'm not good on the camera. Well, then go to use one of these AI tools where you film yourself and then it video AIs you.
Yeah.
One of the top songs in America is an AI singer. So you just got to, T-Pain uses a vocalizer thing and he became,
right.
Be different. Don't copy the crowd because you're never going to be better than the person you copy, right?
I couldn't agree more.
So be yourself.
Sure.
And so that was my secret was don't do it. But if I didn't have the resources, I would have had to do it. Right. And that's where you have to get, you're going to have to fight through it. There are other things I've had to fight through, but my honest answer now, 3 years ago, I said, yeah, I plowed through it and I did it every day and I would have lied to you and I'm not going to do it.
I bought one of those little wireless mics and I got a little stand and my wife held the camera. And
I mean, these lights are for that, right? Like my office is set up to where I don't have to, I could push one button and actually capture content that could be then fed to someone to do. So I don't have to get in the habit of learning how to prepare myself to create the content that I'm not used to creating. I get to be authentic in myself and it just captures it. And if it's got anything that's worth sharing, hopefully I have good, smart people around me that can say, hey, this would resonate. And they can do the testing and the A/B testing and the different, platforms and the learnings. And I get to just be where I'm good. And that's where you're going to shine. I think Dan Martell, who we were talking about earlier, he's been really good at that part where he leans into his brilliance. And if you lean into your brilliance, you will always win. It's when we try to be something we're not, or we try to be in areas where we're not great, that really hold us back. And that's why having a good coach and mentor and groups coaching is so valuable because LeBron James has a coach.
For sure.
Right? You could pick your superstar. Kobe Bryant had a coach. Tim Grover, who was the mindset coach of Michael Jordan and Kobe.
Every Olympian on the planet, the greatest athletes on the planet everyone needs a coach. I couldn't agree more. Same.
And so if you're not having one, and a good coach doesn't make you feel good. This is where people get it so wrong. Oh, they're making me feel bad. Good. Because a coach is supposed to push you in the area that's uncomfortable. And if you're good, you're comfortable. And comfort, you don't need help in. You're already great at that. I'm here to push you where you're not great, which means it's going to be uncomfortable. But that's why you have a coach, because guess what's on the other side of uncomfortable? Greatness.
Absolutely.
So that's why I decided to bring in someone who knew it and was young. I mean, he was a young guy. This was his first real, he had worked for other brands, but not, this was his first at the top shot where I said, hey, I'm not going to tell you how to do this. I have no idea. He's like, well, I'm going to create this thing. Fantastic. All I ever said is I respond to any personal reach out DM, period. End of discussion. Don't ever respond for me. But otherwise, freedom to take the words I say and create the content. And if it doesn't work, no one's going to look at it anyway. And if it does work, congratulations, you did a good job. Right? Like that's the beauty of it. You have nothing to lose.
I want to talk about making friends and having fun. So, I've actually reposted I've republished just a handful of episodes over the years, and yours I've republished a couple of times. And the reason is like the way that you talked about values and brand and culture was absolutely amazing. And it was through that conversation. I was already familiar with Everbowl, but then I became like a regular, right? Like I'm in there all the time. I probably go in 2-3 times a week. I love you for it. It's delicious. It's amazing.
I could tell by looking at you. You are a handsome man, and shine. See that shine? That's not ever shine.
Look, I don't do it for you. I do it for me, Jeff. It's a great product. one of the things that I was obsessed with is, so like every time I go in, everyone's really nice. But a lot of the times when I go in, based on model, because I'm typically going off peak, there's just one person working there, you know? And so, and that's the beauty of the model, right? It's the simplicity of the model is that like one person can execute at a high level, which I think leads to high profitability. But it's hard to make friends and have fun when you're by yourself.
See, I disagree. I'm going to challenge you. I have the opposite opinion.
This is what I wanted to talk about, because every time I go in, they're happy, right? They do seem to be enjoying themselves in what could be a very isolative environment. And so what is that secret sauce? What is it that keeps them happy and engaged? And when you walk in, they're stoked, you know?
Because I hire people who are friend makers because they're naturally curious and happy. That's the goal. So if you hire someone who's bubbly and fun and inquisitive and curious, well, guess what? Why do I need them to have a friend in the building? I want their friend to be you when you walk in that store. I want them to be focused only on you, not talking to their best friend about what they're doing Friday night. What can I get you? So anyway, I don't, no. How many times have you experienced that?
So many.
If it's busy enough for 2 people, we have 2. If it's busy enough for 3, we have 3. Go to San Diego State on a regular college day, we'll have 7. But if it's a slower period of time, I want them to be all about you. And you say you can't make friends if there's only one. If it's that busy that they can't, then I'm not staffing it right. There should be more. But if there's only one and there's only 1 or 2 people in the building, they get to actually take the time and ask you about you and get to know you and your family. And the fact that you're a regular, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? You know?
They do. Taking the dog they really out? Do. For sure they do. And absolutely. They do engage. I had
2 people in there. They wouldn't. I've experienced it. I've tried. And I think that's where employees and restaurateurs challenge it the wrong way. I want to be properly staffed, but not understaffed ever. I'd rather have 2 people I use a data stat, right? It's sales per labor hour.
Right.
And I have a formula that I like. If the sales per labor hour gets too high, meaning we're doing too much sales per 1 hour of labor, I have to bring somebody else in. And the number's not as big as you think, because if they're $20 an hour, in 1 hour, it takes less than 3 minutes to make your bowl. So theoretically, one person could make 20 bowls an hour pretty easily. Well, 20 bowls, even at $10, it's a little more than $10, but let's just use $10. That's $200 an hour. I'm not getting anywhere near that. I want $80 or less. So that means that in the course of an hour, they got to make 1 bowl every 8 minutes. It only takes 3. So that leaves 5 minutes of dead time between customers for them to talk to you and get to know you. That's my target. So I do value them making friends, but I found that the only way to have me make the friend the customer is to not have too many staff members that are friends already, because we all been in a high school lunch hour, and there's cliques. And they don't know you yet, Josh, but they know each other.
Right.
And you may or may not fit in. But if you're the only one there, hey, how are you, Josh? How's your day going? Welcome to Everbowl. How can I help you? Have you ever been here before? Do you want to try this? Let's try some things. I'm bored anyways. Let's have some fun. Because I have a 5-minute window till the next customer that I get to talk to comes in. So it's curated boredom, if you will, that is gone immediately because they naturally want to make friends and have fun. And you become the 8-minute customer enjoyment factor is the target. So that's my rationale, good or bad.
I think it makes sense. I really do. And again, my firsthand experience has always been positive. I think they've always been curious. But that's not the industry standard model. You know, the other layer outside of engagement is accountability. That you have to have more than one person in the room, because if they're left to their own devices, anything could happen, right? Like there need to be 2 closers there, right? That way they're checking each other's work. And it's a limiting belief, but it is foundational to the way the industry schedules, and that's certainly not your model. So,
because if you go back to what I said about social media, right? I don't try to change behavior. I try to remove the things that I can't, and I'm not going to change. Well, cash has legs. It's 2026. No one needs really cash. If you come in with only cash, we'll probably end up giving you a free bowl most of the time. And if you do it more than once, we know you're gaming us. But, if someone's like, oh my God, I don't have a card, fine, I'll give you a free bowl. Like, it's not a big deal. But otherwise, cash has legs. If there's no cash, there's nothing to steal. There's nothing to count. There's no integrity issues. We give away free samples. So if they're going to sample the product, okay, good. Eat my product. You're going to shine like Josh. You're going to look good, feel good, and you're going to know the product. I went into, so in South Carolina, I was visiting actually, I have a facility just on the border of South Carolina and Georgia. And I was driving through South Carolina, and I stopped in an Arby's, and I was grabbing a beverage because on this long stretch of highway, there's only basically Chick-fil-A and a gas station with a Love's and an Arby's. So I went to the Arby's. I wanted a beverage, and they had the XXX, XXX0 acai pomegranate flavor, and I love it. And so I went to get it, and on the guy's shirt it says, "Ask me about our riblets." I'm a friend maker. I'm going to have to ask the question, "Hey, how are those riblets?" He goes, "I don't know. I've never had them." I mean, what am I asking you for? Right? Like, that blows my mind. Like, seriously, that was his answer to me.
That's hilarious.
Like, well, why are you wearing that shirt? They make me. Why don't you try the riblets then? My boss won't give them to me. Your boss won't let you try the thing that he's asking everyone to ask you about? I would force you to try it unless you don't eat that food. Right? And I learned this from David Cohn, actually, from Cohn Restaurant Group in San Diego. He's one of my first partners, investors, and I've learned more from restaurants from him than anybody else. And early on, I said, I have a dilemma. I hire a lot of high school staff members. At the time, I had 17 corporate stores. That's it. No franchises. I mean, they're all just mine. And they work for 3 months, and then they have a sport, so they can't work anymore. Or they're summertime, or they're going to college, and they're constantly turning over. And I was like, I'm spending so much on training. Like, how do I think about this? Like, should I train them less? Like, I'm starting to think, like, why am I spending like, we had Everbowl University. We rented out below his, where the Lexus building is, and Ventana, the second floor, we rented out a whole showroom, and we had 50 of them come in, and we hired in a couple of professionals and myself and Brian, who were our leaders, and we went through this beautiful binder. We called it Everbowl University, where it was culture, it was the company. And then they'd work for 3 months, and I'd do it again. And I'm like, well, this is silly. And he said something to me that was just so profound. He goes, well, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying, why are you going to invest so much because they're going to leave? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, what if they stay? And that was like, ooh, maybe I should train them.
Yeah.
And keep training them, and maybe train them even harder. And so that 8 minutes of solo time, if that ends up happening, and look, knock on wood, the majority of our stores, you don't have that very often.
For sure.
And it bites us in the ass all the time, because if one soccer team shows up at that 3:00 time because they happen to be playing a local high school and 15 kids walk in, they're overwhelmed. So it definitely bites us. And then I'll staff for that, and it'll be nobody for half an hour because of rush hour traffic.
Such is life.
But at the same time, I'm okay with it because I'm also looking at making friends and having fun, and it should be fun. And if working isn't fun, if this isn't a fun job, in our business, there's no ovens, there's no hoods, there's no grease traps. We're not cooking raw chicken. We're not doing the things that are dangerous. We are a modern, better for you version of an ice cream shop. We've curated now our offering in 3-gallon drums, so it's more of a scoop versus blend, and they get to you tell them what like Chipotle. Think of it like a Chipotle model. So the hard part of the job is been removed from them. The areas that are the inconsistencies or the arduous process is hard to do when you have a huge rush. Here, you're scooping 3 or 4 scoops into a thing and topping it with whatever ingredients are in front of them that are already cut and ready to roll. I can make you a bowl in under 50 seconds if you know what you want. And the only time it's going to take is for me to ask you and you to tell me. But if I knew what you wanted already, I could probably do it in 30 seconds. So it's not like the time frame there. It's more about getting the interaction. And so if there was 15 kids, what I want them to do is make friends with them all. All right, let's get into groups. Everybody, I'm going to give everybody a sample. So I'm going to give everyone a sample while I start to make product. And I want you guys to tell me what your favorites are. And let's just see. And then I'm going to name some fun things. And we're going to, I would just engage with them. Maybe they don't care and they're not interested. And they're like, look, loser, we're not interested in that. And they're on their phones, but I'm going to try. And if they're not interested in me, it goes back to when no one watched my content. If they're not paying attention to me, then they don't care that I'm not making friends. So I get to make friends with those who want to engage, and the ones who don't want to, it didn't hurt me. It's when they want to engage with me and I don't, hurts my brand. That's what kills restaurants. That's what kills experience. But if we try and they're not interested, then it didn't hurt us because they weren't interested. But we always have to try. And that's what I want to curate an environment that allows my staff to always have the ability to try. Samples does that. Ease of operational throughput does that. Visually presented does that. And limited prep per item served does that. And so that's operationally what I've always tried to think through. So then I could hire friend makers and make the experience fun, because we're better for you food. When you're feeling you tend not to eat well. And so you're not coming to Everbowl. But when you're having a good day, feeling good, looking good, ready to tackle the world, Everbowl's right on that menu. So I don't have to make your day. I just have to not ruin your day. It's a different expectation. And a simple, hey, welcome to Everbowl. How are you? How's your day going? Is a very different experience. They've tested this. I believe it was Del Taco and a few others. And the Pepsi Challenge was part of this, where I could give you the same product twice, but one time as a transaction and one time by smiling and making eye contact and asking you about yourself first. You're going to like the second one better 100% of the time and not even realize they were different. Or the same, I mean. You will think they were different because you approached it differently. And so that's what we have to think about. And restaurateurs have to realize the experience starts the second they walk in that door. The food is actually not the first taste. The smell, the cleanliness, the vibe, the eye contact. I used to have a rule, and it's gone away a little bit with franchises. I'm trying to get it back, but it's creating a habit. No matter what we're doing, when someone walks in, everybody who works says, hi, welcome to Everbowl. Period. We welcome everybody. Oh, hey guys. Like, it forces that interaction to start. We got that out of the way. I don't have to wait for them to make eye contact. Like, you ever been there at the counter and you go, sorry. You know, it's gone. You couldn't even get into the door. It was like the ding. It's like, welcome to Everbowl. Oh, hey guys. It makes them a little bit uncomfortable, but it's over. Now, that part is checked. Welcome to our house. What do you want? You know, like that is what that's my goal. Is there a better way? Absolutely. And if anyone listening has one, please send it to me, because I am a student and I'd always rather win than be right. So I'm not saying it's the right way. It's just the model that we're doing today.
I think it's the right way. Look, we stole it. We did it across, and I was in multiple tiers of dining. We did it everywhere. Like when you walked in, everyone when the busser walked by you, they said hello. I stole it from sushi restaurants because like they do it, right? I think somebody is like molding food with their hands and they take a minute to say hello and it feels good. And as a restaurateur, you see it, right? Like you're able to say, oh, that felt good. Why did that feel good? Why was that different?
And so sushi's a great point because we let them use no gloves. Like think about that.
Mm-hmm.
These people are using their fingernails to put into your food and mush it together. Not even just pick it up and touch it for 2 seconds.
Right.
But because of the experience, we're all okay with it. And I go to sushi all the time.
Same. I've got one last question for you. So not only do I think I'm an idiot every year based on what I've learned over the course of the year, two things change. The way I define success seems to evolve year over year. And then my goals evolve. Maybe it's because I didn't hit the goal, but I realized I don't care about it. Maybe it's because I hit the goal and realized that I don't care about it. But it's right. It's because it's always right. Because what do they say? They say, the hardest part isn't making the goal. It's, forcing that to be the goal line and not moving the goal line. So I would ask you, like 2026 versus 2023, Jeff, like, how do you define success and what are your goals?
So I define success differently today for sure. And my goals are obviously, they grow, to your point, because I think that the people who achieve success at the level that most people aspire to, which usually starts financial if you're in business, right? It starts financial, it starts health, it starts spouse or partner or kids, familial. Those are kind of the 3-tier buckets that most people aspire to early. And I remember being in my early 20s going, I can't wait to make $1 million. The day I'm going to feel like I'm going to have no problems. It's going to be the greatest thing in the entire world. But to your point, then it happens and you realize tomorrow still is tomorrow. And what's worse is having no purpose and no aspirations. Because what I've learned about myself is I used to think the goal was the end. Now the goal is the pursuit of the goal, is actually what I fell in love with. And success to me is always making sure that I have a goal that is so big that it forces me to be uncomfortable in that pursuit and challenge me, because that's where growth is. And I have developed and evolved my personal success formula that I now can duplicate and replicate to achieve what I will quantify as success. Because for me, it's not a dollar figure. It's not an outcome. It is a threshold that I have to elevate myself to do so I can participate. So if you think about it in childhood, your first non-feet movement device may be a scooter or a bike with a tricycle, or one of those kind of bikes with wheels. And then you elevate to a bicycle, maybe a moped if your parents were, or whatever these scooters are today, or whatever those are. And then you get a car, and you may get to drive one, and then you drive a car. And then some people go on to drive race cars and boats and planes and air jets. Well, at 15, I'm not qualified to fly a fighter jet. But if I continue to elevate myself to be capable of as a pilot, driver, aviator, and competent moving of this, maybe I will be able to. Whether I do it or not is not the goal. It's because I'm interested. That's my goal. So I try to set those. So like in business, I want to be in the Hall of Fame in my profession. This is what I do. I don't understand. I have zero like empathy and compassion and understanding, only because I don't get it so much that it's like walking over $100 and you pick up a penny next to a $100 bill and you're like, well, I want the penny. I just don't understand. So I'm not gonna get there with you. Pick up the $100 bill. Not putting your best and trying to see how good at anything that you do for an extended duration of time you can be at. Like if you give me a yo-yo and I don't care, am I gonna go and be a yo-yo expert? No, but this is my career. So my career, where I spend 1/3 of my life or more per day, sleep, career, family, or personal. That's how most humans operate. So when it comes to my career, why am I not going to lay it out on the field? And when I am laying down, looking at my life, say, I did that as best I could. And look at what I was able to accomplish. Competing with myself, not the others, but the others have established what the best and rarefied air looks like. Am I competing with Elon Musk? Absolutely not. But if I was one day sitting in my bed looking back and saying, I got to compete at a level that was equivalent to that level of operational excellence and business pursuit and ingenuity and innovation and disruption and attacks and all of it, I would be very proud of it. Just like if I looked back at my family and said, I have amazing kids that I got to raise and look at what incredible adults they've become. And I had a great spouse and that was an incredible experience. And I did all the personal things I wanted to do and I stayed healthy and I was, I saw the world if that's what I wanted, or I played these hobbies, or I made the greatest garden in my front yard. It doesn't matter. That's what I want. So I just want to keep moving it and having the humility to appreciate the fact that I can't go from zero to hero, right? So what is my Kaizen? What is my 2026 elevation? But I never want to repeat last year. And I hiked Mount Whitney with two buddies and we trained for it because we were trying to do it really fast. And Mount Whitney's the highest peak in the continental US. It's not that high compared to like real Mount Everest stuff, but we hiked it. And we get to the top and we're there for 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, you guys ready? And they're like, no, we want to kind of savor. I didn't care about the top as much as I cared about getting to the top.
Right.
And that's kind of that whole layer, right? And so not satisfying any urge or complacency or getting to that better than view, but saying I'm a student and a beginner at every time I try something. And I'm going to continue to be a beginner and push and strive. And it's uncomfortable for me. And some people say, well, when's enough going to be enough? And I'm like, what does that mean? Enough of what? Enough of growth? Enough of experience? Enough of new? Enough of, challenges? I love it. So never. But it's not a financial goal. But in business, the financial part is part of the game. I mean, I don't need money because I want to hoard money, but the money is the score in a lot of business contexts, just like, pictures and health and vibrancy and youthfulness is part of health and wellness. So I don't play basketball and not keep score. So we keep score. And that tells me, are we doing it right? And how many people are we hiring? And how big of a company can we grow? And how many lives can we impact? And how many innovative things can we come up with? And can we challenge the status quo and disrupt? And how many cool conversations like this do I get to have? Because I don't get to have this with small. Small is private. Now, some people, small always wins. Like some people want to be alone in a cabin in the woods. Didn't do that. And if you do that, you win bigger and you might be more successful than I am because success is personal. And that is reassuring and scary at the same time if you don't have it. And having no purpose is the scariest thing in the world to me. When I tried retiring once, it made me horrible as a human. And I realized that I'm not chasing any specific thing. I'm chasing forever. And it bothers my wife sometimes because she's like, you're going to be such a pain in the ass when you're an old man. But I will be. But that's okay. Because I'm going to. I want to. That's what lights me up. So success in 2026 is continuing to ensure that I make myself an elevated goal from last year and that I don't end the year at or the same level and that I challenge myself even if things are working. And success, and what success means to me is doing that. And the goal for me this year is to try to open another 25 stores in new states from Everbowl. Turn Rebuild into much more of a household name on the growth side. Unevolved Products is doing what it should be doing. Make sure that my my family gets more time with me, and I do a better job of investing less time in just the business arena, but also giving back to the family side more and being more present and aware, because that has obviously had some tax along the way, and impact one person a day. Because if I can help one person a day, then I'll feel good about it.